You're with Julian on the Brown Note and a review of Megalopolis, one of the year's most storied films, probably the most storied film of the year, from Francis Ford Coppola, who himself, as one of the most iconic directors of all time, has had a run of it for a number of years, so that doesn't tell the whole story. But in the 1970s, he was unimpeachable, had The Godfather and Godfather 2 and The Conversation and Apocalypse Now as four of the films that have stood up to the test of time. Incredible stuff, and then it all went pear-shaped very, very quickly for him as a directorial force. One from the Heart, his musical, was not great. It was not well loved and has a cult following now. But the only film that I think really belongs in that classic status is Rumblefish. So The Outsiders gets more traction. Both films were made at the same time, both from the same author's books, young adult books ahead of the curve. But I always thought The Outsiders was a little bit trash. But Rumblefish is an amazing film. And he didn't really do anything that successful after that. But if you look at it again, there are some points. I thought The Rainmaker was actually one of the best of those lawyer films to have come out in the 90s, late 80s, 90s. There were lots of these films where someone was cast as the Lincoln lawyer or someone. I thought The Rainmaker was probably the best and most soulful. And even though it was kind of trashed on release, Bram Stoker's Dracula has kind of stood the test of time as well. But he basically retreated from Hollywood and made Megalopolis famously with his own money, $120 or $130 million of his own money. It would never have made a cent at the box office given its themes and its style. It's a complete art house film. There is so much intrigue. You want to read the Wikipedia entry on this film, it will take you half a day. He started with the idea of it back in the 70s, and the idea of it was to look at the fall of the Western Empire, particularly through the lens of America. So it predates Trump a long, long way. And he knew after Apocalypse Now that he could never get funding for such a film, wrote lots and lots of versions of a story and scripts, even did filming for it over the decades. And in the end, decided that he could only make it himself. But before you feel sorry for his grand artistic folly in losing $120 million, he actually built up a winery and sold allegedly part of his winery empire for $500 million to help fund this movie in part. So he's not gone bankrupt on this at all. It was never going to make a cent at the box office. Who the hell would go and see this 2.5-hour film? The premise of it is very high and mighty and has stayed the same since his initial version of it, which was, it was based on the Roman Catilinarian conspiracy of 63 BC, which was somebody basically trying to overthrow the Roman Republic for the Roman Empire. Someone that got annoyed that they weren't being elected to lead the Roman Republic, attempting to overthrow the whole thing. And he reframes the whole affair into a post-Trump America. And it's stylized in a manner where the clothing is very redolent of, the toga, and a lot of the characters are bacchanalian sort of behavior, and it's basically about the decline and fall of the Western Empire in a post-Trump universe. It stars Adam Driver as an architect / artist / dreamer who wants to build a utopia for the future, being opposed mainly by Giancarlo Esposito, who is the town mayor. And Adam Driver represents the purity and the vision for the future of being our better selves. And Giancarlo Esposito represents the pragmatic, corrupt version of politics that we have. And there are numerous people thrown into the mix. So Adam Driver's character basically is combative throughout the film with the people that want to stop his vision for demolishing people's houses to build this city of the future. He's developed a substance called which is this building material that will provide this, when you see the vision of society will look like this in 40 years sort of thing, whereas everyone else just is corrupt and wants to continue politics as usual. Nathalie Emmanuel, who I have up and down views on in films. I thought she was a bit hammy in the Fast Furious films, and I thought she was very good in a couple of other films I've seen her in. She's a love interest, and she basically is the daughter of the corrupt mayor who's at war with the Adam Driver character, and she falls for the Adam Driver character, creating this conflict which runs through the movie. The best character by far is Aubrey Plaza, who is very analogous to the character from Don't Look Up, the news broadcaster. She's actually having an affair with Adam Driver at the start, and he basically ditches her. And she's a social climber, and she ends up... So Adam Driver's family, his whole family, are the richest people in the world. And they're led by John Voight, who is the richest man in the world. And he basically funds all of Adam Driver's dreams. But the other family members aren't so great. Mainly Shia LaBeouf, who is this complete psychopath, drug-taking idiot who has great ambitions. And the closest to Trump in the film, but not really analogous to Trump in many ways. The film itself is incredibly complex and very intellectual and immensely flawed in numerous ways. But I have to say that if you're the kind of person that can watch a film like Cloud Atlas and say that it is unbelievably brilliant on so many levels and it's so ambitious in so many ways, that you will forgive really grating flaws in this film. It's not technically a film about, and given its 70s origins and the fact that he's been making this story for so many years, and ironically it comes across as still so unfinished. It's not technically about Trump, but it's analogous to the idea of these, the Romans had the patrician classes who were supposed to be in bacchanalian revelry and debauched whilst they made the masses be Puritans and lived in their own bubble and didn't care at all about the people. And this is what this is kind of about, which is Adam Driver and his family are super, super wealthy. And Nathalie Emmanuel from the mayor of the city side, they're all super wealthy and exist in this bubble, and they just don't care about anyone. And he talks about how the empire will fall when people stop believing in it, which is pretty analogous to the modern world. The acting is very haphazard, but often brilliant. I thought Adam Driver came through really well. Even though he does some strange things and there's some really avant-garde scene framing devices, like when he does the entire to be or not to be speech as an opener in one of the earliest scenes in the film, where it's all on these like planks where they're all sort of over a vision of the city where Giancarlo wants a casino built. That's one of the interesting things, is that the things that would be analogous with Trump are actually analogous with several different characters at once. And the Adam Driver's really quite focused in this film, which is very haphazard. Nathalie Emmanuel, I thought she was great when she was playing the society sex and drugs person at the start, but I thought one of the weaker elements of the story was when it focused so heavily on the romance between her and Adam Driver. It kind of that was probably the most boring element. At times I was reminded of the romance in The Crow. Nowhere near as bad as that film. Absolutely nowhere near as bad as that film at all. But the annoyance of her character sort of having these deep conversations which weren't really deep was a bit much. Shia LaBeouf is perfectly suited to this film because he is such a uncontrollable live wire. It does suit the dynamic of the film. I think the fact that Francis Ford Coppola allegedly put so much trouble in the actor's way when they were making this film by completely redesigning scenes off the fly, and it feels like it, and opting to, rewrite stuff. This is a film that would have benefited from being much more honed. And it only had a 40-year gestation period to get there. But apparently he used to sit in his trailer for hours and then come out. They accused him of smoking pot for hours in his trailer and then just rewriting the whole scene. I think it might have benefited from that not happening. But at times, Shia LaBeouf is really good. Aubrey Plaza is magnificent in this. I love Aubrey Plaza. Arguably her best role in a major film. She's fantastic. She has the electricity that the film needs. And I was really disappointed when she lost the focus of the film to become Jon Voight's wife, a near geriatric man just for fame and ambition. And we got Nathalie Emmanuel as the replacement, who was a much duller character, to be honest. There are enormously amazing sequences throughout this. The Vestal Virgins. In an arena, they have this girl who's a pop singer who pledges her virginity and who says she's 16 and so on. And Shia LaBeouf's character, who is continually trying to destroy the life of Adam Driver, releases footage, doctored AI footage of Adam Driver having sex with her and stuff like that was very sort of relatable to a lot of the stories in the media. And she comes out then as a bad girl and so on. The script I thought was mostly really, really good. And I thought it was much more redolent of modern society in its premise about this collapse of the Roman Empire, rather than being about specifics that are going on now. Because none of the characters are really relating, like the Shia LaBeouf character, who could potentially be the Trump character. He goes after the populist vote despite being a very rich person that doesn't care about them. He's a very different personality type as well. And the Adam Driver character as well, his character as this, architect that wants to save society is very Ayn Rand, which is difficult given the level of approbation that her novels have nowadays. They're celebrated by the right and so on. And, the closest character you would have to someone like him is Elon Musk, which is not a great thing. So they're not really analogous to anyone that's existing now per se. But overall, I thought the biggest triumph of this film was it was a film about itself. The fact that Coppola went through so many years and in the end funding it himself to make this artistic vision. And at the end, there's Adam Driver giving this big speech to the people to be better, to celebrate that human beings can be better things than they are, not the mob. That they can look to a future. They don't have to solely do what's pragmatic. I think reminded me a bit of the words of Winston Churchill in World War II, a noted conservative at that time, when the other conservatives tried to make him gut the funding for the arts in schools in Britain, and he turned around and said, then what are we fighting for? I think there's a lot about art in this film, more even than the collapse of Western society, and making a case for the fact that art is our better angels, and can show that a human side of humanity that is above the mob and that is above corrupt rich people, and can point to a better, more inclusive future. So I found so much to think about here. It's a deeply flawed film. A lot of the cinematography of New York, some of it was filmed around September the 11th, which stopped Coppola making the film because there was part of the film had a Russian satellite going into Manhattan and destroying the skyscrapers. So he just said, I'm not going to make this film anymore. But the footage they shot is so stunningly beautiful of New York in that, I can't remember the term, but the time, like the twilight term, or just after sunrise where the sun's not up yet, is stunningly beautiful. Some of the other stuff is very flat looking, although that actually helps because it makes it look very stagey. You've got Adam Driver hanging around like in Wings of Desire on the top of buildings a lot and stuff like that, where it has that sort of hyper-real feel. And the soundtrack's very, very good as well. The music in it is very, very good. So overall, I just thought, this is nowhere near as good as Cloud Atlas, which was one of my films of the last decade, but it has so much stimulating stuff to go in. If you like that kind of film and can put up with so many flaws and have a film where no rough edges have been knocked off it at all. So there are so many sequences where your jaw hits the floor that they actually did that. So I'm going to give it a very high overrating of 8.5 out of 10 as one of the year's most interesting watches, and everything that surrounds it. If you read up on the film and the whole ethos behind it, and the many years, including the abuse allegations against Coppola, and it's just a vast universe of immersion and a unique film in the modern era. And the fact that it's so positive about people overall, it's not cynical like a film like Don't Look Up at all. It's actually saying that we can be better. So I thought, 8.5 out of 10 for Megalopolis, a deeply, deeply flawed film.